What is up, everybody? I'm Victoria Geary. I'm here for my first Football Guys short of the 2022 season. It's great to be back. Make sure you follow everything we're doing over at footballguys.com. Today, we're going to be focusing on some sleeper tight ends you need to draft. And I'll be focusing on more of a redraft lens with this short, but these are also guys that you should be looking to acquire in Dynasty, seeing as we are in Dynasty season, baby. So in the last few seasons, the tight end position has felt fairly deep, kind of leading into our fantasy drafts in September and August. Almost every tight end who isn't named Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and Mark Andrews will be touted as a sleeper at some point between now and September. But if you're not taking one of those three top tight ends just mentioned within the first couple rounds of your draft, the data says you're usually better off going for a later round sleeper than spending your fourth, fifth, or sixth round pick on a middling tight end. So let's talk about three players I think have some sleeper potential going into the 2022 season. Of course, we still have the NFL draft right around the corner with those rookies, so any significant draft capital could change some of these situations, but let's get into it now. First on my list, David Njoku, Cleveland Browns tight end. He was a first-round pick by the Browns in 2017. Of course, he hasn't quite lived up to that draft capital just yet, but I think he's going to be the sleeper tight end everyone's talking about in a few months' time. Teammates Austin Hooper and Jarvis Landry have both left Cleveland in free agency, leaving Harrison Bryant as Njoku's only other positional competition. So he has a fantastic chance to be a serviceable week-to-week fantasy asset at the tight end position. Of course, there's still a few unknowns. More specifically, will Deshaun Watson be passing him the ball starting week one, or will Watson end up being suspended a couple games? Either way, that doesn't scare me off of this tight end sleeper very much. He has a massive opportunity in front of him, seeing as Hooper and Landry garnered the top two most targets on the team last season, leaving almost 150 targets vacated for the upcoming season. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, running backs for the Cleveland Browns, they combined for just over 50 targets in 2021, so they aren't a massive threat to Njoku's potential as well. Njoku was fourth in yards per reception for tight ends last year, and though the Browns, we know they identify as a run-first team, it's worth noting that Browns tight ends had a 28% target share as a group in 2021. So both Hooper and Njoku averaged 4 targets on a per-game basis. Even if Njoku can gain 2 of those Hooper's 4 targets per game, 6 targets is a sweet spot per game for tight ends, would be fantastic for him next season. And you won't have to select him until the later rounds of your fantasy draft. So if he can garner some more concentrated targets, he could end the 2022 season as a back-end tight end one, which we love. Next on our list, Mr. Cole Kmet. Yes, here we are once again singing the good praises of Cole Kmet and his massive potential and upside leading into the 2022 NFL season. Last year, we all let out a big sigh, and not a good sigh, but when teammate Jimmy Graham re-signed with the Bears, we knew we wouldn't get to see Kmet's true potential because, unfortunately, Jimmy Graham vultured a massive share of red zone targets when he was on the field. But guess what now? Old Jimmy, he's gone. Wide receiver Allen Robinson is gone. And head coach Matt Nagy has left the building, much to the happiness of Bears fans everywhere, I assume. The Bears are shaping up to be a team we can definitely squeeze a little value out of for the 2022 fantasy season. Let's get into Kmet's stats. From last season, he averaged 5 targets and 36 yards per game. He scored 0 touchdowns. Remind you of anyone? Kyle Pitts, maybe, not having a big touchdown season. We have to keep in mind this positive regression is likely to occur, meaning simply that there's no way Cole Kmet ends another season with no touchdowns. Couple that with the wide open opportunity share outside of wide receiver Darnell Mooney, we have a nice recipe for a tight end fantasy sleeper here. Kmet has a legitimate chance to be the number 2 option in this passing offense. He averaged a healthy 17% target share in 2021, 6th among tight ends last year. Again, the opportunity is there for Kmet with Graham out of the building. Over 35% of Graham's targets were in the red zone compared to half of that for Cole Kmet. And we have to assume everyone's favorite Justin Fields, we'll have to assume his sophomore season will be less chaotic, less choppy as well, with Nagy leaving and Fields getting all those first team reps all offseason to properly gel with his receivers a bit more, which is so important. Kmet is also entering his 3rd season, which is often where we see tight ends break out for fantasy, which is great. And hitting on value one last time, we should expect our Bears fantasy assets to likely be overlooked in most of our fantasy drafts. That gives us a shot to take Kmet fairly late in our drafts. Let's end this with one more guy over in Denver. We like to call him Albert O, right? Because I had to Google how to pronounce his last name, and I really don't want to be embarrassed. So we're going to keep going with Albert O right now. The stock of all Denver pass catchers went way up the day Russell Wilson was traded to the Broncos, shocked us all. Not only was Russ traded to the Broncos, but tight end teammate Noah Fant was traded as well to the Seahawks in the same transaction, which leaves Albert O as the top tight end option in Denver. So Noah Fant, freak athlete, was a tight end focal point for the Broncos over the last couple of years, known for his athleticism. Well, Albert O is just as impressive. He ran a 4.49 40-yard dash. He was in the 98th percentile with that for tight ends. Don't sleep on this man's speed and his athleticism. This massive upgrade at quarterback with Russell Wilson is, of course, the most obvious reason for his potential fantasy breakout season. But Wilson, in his last 6 seasons, he has thrown to his tight ends on average of over 20%. And in the red zone, that figure jumps to over 25%, which is awesome news for Albert O. And in all honesty, how many of Wilson's tight ends have stayed fairly healthy in the last couple of years? It's kind of been a roller coaster. So if he can have that guy that he can count on in Albert O, he is a huge sleeper. He does have downside, though. He has a bit of stiff competition for targets with wide receivers Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, even running back Javonte Williams. But Wilson's red zone utilization of his tight ends and the pure talent and athleticism of Albert O is something that we can bet on to be a tight end sleeper and, at best, a very low price in drafts this upcoming season. If you're looking for one more sleeper, I won't get into him, but one more to target in your drafts next year, check out Evan Engram. Our own Dave Kluge from Footballguys has a video titled 3 Cheap Guys to Acquire in Dynasty right now. He discusses all of the reasons tight end Evan Engram has a chance to get back into our good graces potentially for this upcoming season. Make sure you check out that short. All of our other shorts coming out every single day throughout the week, throughout the off season. Stick with us at footballguys.com. Have a great weekend.